here's Brody Brazil.
Okay, this is something totally different from my YouTube channel, but I've just returned from Disneyland for the first time. No, not ever. Of course not ever. I used to go there a lot as a kid, fortunately. I'm in California. Why not? But for the first time as a parent, it was a totally different experience. We had such a good time. And the reaction of watching my son do things I used to do as a kid. That brings me to wanting to do this honest review of Disneyland in 2025. And again, I feel like I can give this review because I've been going for most of my life. And actually, I've been going in spurts. More so as a kid, then not for a few years, like in college, and then back again before my wife and I got married, then a little bit after we got married, but obviously before having a child, and now not having gone in, 8 years basically since our son was born. So this is my honest review of Disneyland, and as I've seen the evolution of it. And I've got to say right off the top, Disneyland now has a new best ride, Rise of the Resistance. The whole Star Wars world I hadn't even seen yet. And I know I'm way behind the curve here. Everybody's been talking about this for years. I've been seeing pictures, but I fully couldn't comprehend what exactly this new area was, how cool it is, and this ride particularly, Rise of the Resistance, and I'm not going to give it away. There's no spoilers here. Let me just say, though, that this ride comprises a little bit of everything. It's all the best parts of a Disney ride. A little bit of fast motion, a little bit of virtual reality, augmented reality. There's some character role play, like actual humans that are part of this ride. And when you see those stormtroopers in real life for the very first time, and when you see those AT-AT walkers, I've included the photos here, I mean, it's just like it blows you away, the level of detail and what they've put into this ride. It's a very modern ride. Again, as you go around Disneyland, some of the nostalgia is the fact that, Pirates of the Caribbean hasn't changed much over the years. Even Star Tours, for example, it still really feels like a 1980s, early 90s ride. But that's part of the experience of it. This one feels like, I think it came out in 2020, so it very much feels like a 2020s ride. And this is Disneyland's best ride. Like, there is no competition for this one for me anymore. I got off the ride. I was blown away. I was like, all right, I had no idea what to even expect. And that's my fault. I went into this with zero expectations, zero prior knowledge. I just wanted to be surprised. And wow, I was pleasantly surprised. So it's great to see that Disneyland keeps adding new stuff, and they now have a new great thing. Okay, this was also new for me. I know it's probably not new for most of you who frequent the park or parks, but the Lightning Lane passes, there are the single ride passes and the multi-Lightning Lane passes. And I guess the way to put this, and what I've realized is, if you're going to Disneyland to do a bunch of rides, like, this is the only way to dominate. You're not going to walk in the park anymore and get 12 rides in 10 hours or whatever. I mean, if you really want to do this, and because Disneyland is so crowded, which we'll get into on a regular basis. I mean, we were there on a holiday. Granted, it was packed. We were also there 2 days after the holiday, and it was still so relatively busy that it makes you wonder, when is it ever not busy? When would you ever not buy the Lightning Lane pass? And I feel like in terms of buying it, for us, it was like $30-something a person per day times 3 days. So there's another, $350 that was spent that maybe you understood you were going to spend, and in the bigger picture of what it cost to go to Disneyland, look, this was a huge help. The Lightning Lane definitely works. If you play the system the right way, you can kind of manipulate your day and plan your day and know what's next and what's after that and not have to wait too long. It's very much more predictable, your day. It's the only way to dominate, again, but it's one of those, okay, fine, we've come all this way. It's another however much for you and your family and per day. Okay, fine. We'll get that. But it kind of maybe takes away the joy of walking in the park and not having your day planned, or kind of meandering from one thing to the next. I guess it depends how you want to spend your day at Disney. If you're just there to walk around and have a good time, eat a churro, maybe you live in Southern California, you don't need a Lightning Lane pass every time you go. But if you're only going to go once a year, maybe twice a year, maybe once every 18 months, whatever, if your opportunities aren't that frequent and you want to get on these rides and you want to have these chances, I mean, this is kind of the only way to do it. Again, it works, and there's no complaints of the fact that its efficiency is there and it's great. It's just that, do we need to be buying an opportunity or a pass? And how about like the Cars ride, for example? You have to buy almost the single pass for $20 a person if you want almost any opportunity to go on the Cars ride, at least when it's packed, without waiting like 2.5 hours. So $60 for a ride? I mean, you almost have to do it if you really want to do it. I will say, though, in terms of all the spending and finally maybe Disney breaking this barrier of offering free photos. This always used to be something, right? When you were walking around the park, hey, we'll take your photo. You can go buy this later at the photo stand. Or you just got off a ride and you saw your photo and you really love it and you want to capture that moment. Buy the photo right here, right now. Otherwise, you'll never get another chance. By the way, I know what you're noticing on the far left over there. That's me and my wife on Space Mountain. And yeah, I blur out photos of my son, but that's not my son clearly in the front row. That's another person who decided to go double bird on the photo. And so they blurred it out. Disney actually blurred out that person's hands in the double bird. I put the sad face over that person's actual face. But what you can't see in this photo is our son, who at 7.5 years old actually went on Space Mountain. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty impressed, to be quite honest with you. You can't see him because he's ducking down behind me. There was no Photoshop required. I didn't realize it when I first saw the photo. Like, where'd he go? Oh, he's still there. He's just ducking down behind me at the end of the ride. Anyway, free photos finally. Look, I wonder if Disney realized there was lackluster sales and they weren't going to sell a bunch of these photos anymore. And the value of the photos is this. People are going to instantly take these, share them, put them on their social platforms. Look, I'm at Disneyland. I'm having a really good time. That marketing, that advertising is almost way more valuable than trying to sell a photo package for $19.95 a pop that, maybe 1 in 300 people are actually going to buy. I don't know what it used to be, but the fact that there is this way to get free photos and document your trip and get good pictures on the rides or around the parks, and it's all so easy with the phone, the Lightning Lane, the Photo Pass app, it's all on your phone. Super simple, super efficient. So I credit Disney a lot for doing that. The details. I mean, this always blows me away. The details are still everywhere in Disneyland. No matter how much they expand, no matter how old the park gets, it's always been one of the cleanest places on Earth. I know they talk about it being the happiest place on Earth, but it's also one of the cleanest places on Earth. Everything is intentional. I mean, you look around the park, there's no corner, there's no place where it doesn't look magical, or there's not a detail, or there's not care or consideration, or there's not a wall that hasn't been repainted in the last 5 years or 5 weeks or months or whatever. I mean, it's just so meticulously cared for. And the fact that there is no edge where it looks like, plywood, or it looks like a building, or it looks like something normal. Everything looks better than normal. Everything looks special. The illusions basically have no boundaries. There is no end to the illusion. When you walk in the park, and I think that's something you don't realize how probably difficult that is to do and how special that is that they pull it off that way. Again, every single place you look, there's something magical, there's something cared for, there's something special. And so I wanted to throw that one in as part of the review here. They could have slipped over the years. Disneyland has never slipped. Now, there is definitely an issue, I think, with overcrowding, at least on my visit in 2025. Again, we went on a holiday. President's Day was a Monday, then Tuesday and Wednesday, and I still realized that was a busy week, and you might find some less busy weeks, probably in early March before spring break, probably in September when families are having their kids go back to school, probably in January maybe, like right after the Christmas holiday and the winter holiday that people are back in school. Maybe there's some downtimes, but I think the realization is this: there's just so many busy days, right? It's the fact that you would understand like around 4th of July, you would understand around Halloween, you would understand around some certain times of the year, but it feels like the default is that it's going to be a busy day. The default is it's not going to be a casual day. The default is it's going to be a busy day. You need to work really hard to find the less crowded days to go to Disneyland. There's actually calendars. I found this stuff online after the fact. Calendars that show predictions of how many people are going to be in both parks, California Adventure and Disneyland. I mean, you really almost have to be that strategic if you're trying to go at a time of year where it's not super crowded. And I think the crowding is twofold. Number one, obviously longer lines for rides and more competition, but also even just navigating the park. Like I got to say, sometimes it gets a little fatiguing to be in one of those situations by Main Street, and you're just trying to get somewhere or walk your own way, and it's like a circus to try and do that. September and January seem like the best bets for the lesser crowds. Although I do have to say this, and I don't think I put this here in my overall notes. Like the one thing that's been great beyond the lightning lane situation where you can kind of predict your rides and schedule your rides out in advance, buying food on the app ahead of time, buying food at some place across the park, ordering it now, and then saying, yep, I'm here, and then picking it up like 3 minutes later, that is a huge benefit and boost. And in terms of overcrowding, like we didn't wait in line for food once. Even though it was that crowded, there was no waiting in line for food the entire time, which I thought was amazing. Disneyland has these generational classics, which again, I talked about before, in Rise of the Resistance, it's brand new and it's something a little bit different. And it's the best of all the different Disney rides and worlds. But I feel like, and things like Space Mountain and Star Tours, which I've illustrated here, some rides are like the Fenway Park and the Wrigley Field of Major League Baseball. And I say that meaning if you're not a sports fan, which is weird here on my channel, those are the stadiums that are never going anywhere. They're not touching them. They might fix them up. They might bring them up to speed and code when they have to. But a ride like Space Mountain, I mean, first off, it's in the dark. So there's not much you need to do other than the line area and the ride entrance area. But some of these have gone unchanged for decades now. And that's almost the best part about it, is that you walk in and it's not new and you know what to expect. And it's almost like going to a restaurant where you've been ordering the same food for 30 years, 40 years. So I do love the fact that generational classics still exist. I'm sure there's been temptation over the years for Disney to say, all right, let's fix this, change this, totally overhaul it. I love the fact that they haven't changed some rides in those ways. But I do have to say, Tomorrowland was kind of like Yesterdayland even when I was a kid in the late 80s and early 90s. And now Tomorrowland here in 2025 feels like 70s land. Almost 60s land a lot of times. But again, so I'm kind of divided on that. I'm divided on the future of Tomorrowland. That's a weird thing to say. Should they wipe the slate clean and overhaul it and make it like a 2050s situation? Can they? Would it become outdated all over again super quick? Is it best to just leave it in its current form and have that nostalgia just emanate like it does? I don't know. Waiting in line, I just have to say you realize that it's part of the Disney experience. There's the Haunted Mansion on the left. There's Pirates of the Caribbean on the right. It kind of factors into your whole day. Like at this point, with Disneyland being as crowded as it is, you're going to spend some quality time with whoever you came with to the park that day in line 20 to 30 to 40 minutes or more at a time. And so I do have to say one thing you don't realize is although you want to get on the ride, although you are trying to figure out your day, it's a nice rest. It's a nice break to chat between rides. It's a nice opportunity to plan and figure out the rest of your day. You don't really realize this, but there is some quality time to be had waiting in lines. And that's kind of a takeaway that you probably weren't expecting when you go to Disneyland in 2025. I think I'll cap it off by saying this. We only spent 3 days there. It was fly in Monday, full day Tuesday, fly out on Wednesday night or afternoon. But I think as many times as I've gone to Disneyland, being a Californian, it's not that far away, sometimes drive, sometimes fly down there. This trip with our son made me realize I was like sad to go away from it. And I want to go back to it again as soon as possible. It's a costly excursion. We should talk about that too. I mean, what Disneyland costs now versus probably even 10 years ago, or especially 20 years ago. I mean, it is a significant buy-in for anywhere you're staying around Disneyland, for the tickets you might purchase to go in, for the lightning lane, for the food, for the travel, however you want to get there. So it is a significant financial commitment. That being said, like, I feel like it was worth it, would go back again, will go back again sooner than later. But yeah, that's my honest review of Disneyland here in 2025. It's overall a good review. I just want to prepare you that if you haven't been in a long time, it is a little bit different than it ever used to be. Thumbs up down below for making it here to the end. I really appreciate that. That'll help me, this video, and this channel. And if you're new here, don't forget to go down there and also subscribe, so I can definitely see you back here next time.